The Samsung S24 Ultra is an amazing phone, but it's got too much information to be held in one short video. So today, this is your one-stop shop to learn the complete story of this amazing phone. So stick with it and let's check it out. UPS not 5 minutes ago delivered the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra to my doorstep. Do we still have doorstops now? Is it my porch? They delivered it to my porch. So let's crack this thing open and see if it's any good. I'm really excited. I've never owned an Ultra Samsung phone before. I have owned their phones in the past, but I'm really excited about this. You can see I've got my Samsung Buds and my Galaxy Watch all ready to go to get paired to this. Let's get to it. Now, this box is actually pretty darn nice. Do not accept if seal is broken. Okay, I won't. Thank you for telling me. Tells me what's contained in the package. This box, look, you may know, if you've seen my videos before, I'm kind of a fan of good packaging. I'm a packaging snob, if you will. This packaging is pretty good. Oh, I liked that. You didn't hear, you can hear this one. I like a little resistance when you open a box up. It gives it a little more epic feeling, like being a Christmas present almost. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Ah! Oh, that looks so good. Obviously, I got the orange version. That is a gorgeous phone. Holy crap. It's big. Don't worry. I mean, it is a substantial chunk. I cannot wait to get that going. Okay, inside the box, we also get, what we got in here? We get a USB-C to USB-C cable. I do kind of wish this was braided. I like when companies include braided cables in there. Maybe that's being a cable snob. It would be nice here. Either way, not a big deal. So we've got a SIM card tool, which is nice. This still has a physical SIM card, unlike my other big phone that I use, which does not, which was actually a very big pain in the butt going to only eSIM. I'm not going to say what company, because I'm going to try really hard not to do comparisons in this video, but the company rhymes with Snapple. Okay, man, this thing is gorgeous. That is I love everything about this. I love the angular, but rounded. The size, I mean, it is a big chunk. That is a big chunk of a phone. It's going to be kind of hard to get used to holding something like that all the time, but a lot of this. Okay, let's get this out of here. Ooh. And that's just the back. I thought there was like a plastic covering on the back, but I'm on board with this kind of frosted. Like, if you know me, I do not like stainless steel or like shiny parts of my phones because they're fingerprint magnets. But the shell of this year they talked about titanium, titanium, titanium. Maybe it's just the lighting in here. I'm not seeing too many fingerprints hold on to this. I think I could really go caseless. I mean, it's a brick. Like, that is, I think, the definition of a brick, but it's kind of winning me over. We got the gigantic cameras here. So we got 4 cameras on the back and a sensor. We got the camera in front. It does come with a little stylus. How sweet is that? I really like, if you've seen any of my videos about the Samsung Galaxy Tab S9, I really like the S Pen. And if this is most of what an S Pen is, but on a phone, we've admired it long enough. Let's turn it on. Samsung Galaxy secured by Knox. That's a little bit longer than the video game that inspired that little opening right there. I kind of like, and as this is turning on, something I really like is, you probably can't see it here, but I've got a light right here that's bouncing off of my white wall here. So it's kind of providing a glare against the phone for me. But actually, the screen here is doing really well managing that, and I am very appreciative. I thought that was going to be a problem. I agree. I mean, I don't necessarily love it, but hey, I'll agree for right now. We'll choose Wi-Fi for right now. I do have a SIM card. I'm going to pop the SIM card out of my Z Flip 5 for this. Boom. Okay, we made it happen. I just got the Z Flip 5 ready to go. Okay, advanced intelligence. So that is one of the selling points of this S24 Ultra, is all of the AI features built into here. And we'll have to, I mean, I don't have any opinion on that right now. We'll have to try it out as we go along. But these are the things that it should affect, right? The phone, the keyboard, interpreter, which did seem really cool. Notes, I'm a big fan of notes, so I'm really excited to try all this stuff out. Darker light mode, I'm sorry, y'all. I am a light mode nerd, which is okay. We all have our different preferences, right? And I'm gonna say it again because there's a big bright like glare right here. I don't know if you can see it. You can't, but from where I'm at, there's a glare right there. But the screen, I mean, it doesn't feel matte, but it has a very nice anti-glare coating on here. I'd have to say that's the most striking thing so far. Yes, the build quality is great. I've really enjoyed the rest of the phone so far, but just like that anti-glare has been fantastic. Let's actually look at the wallpaper. This wallpaper's fine. I mean, it's not the worst wallpaper I've ever seen, but it doesn't speak to me, Gary. Ooh, I like that blue. Oh, I like that a lot. Okay, that's the new. Ooh, I love that. Holy crap. That is about I really, really like that. Okay, now that we got this all set up, let's check out the camera. Let's see how the camera looks. So we get a lot of options here because we've got so many different cameras. Here's the main camera. So can I see? Okay. So I can kind of see it in there. So this is how the main camera looks. I'm not doing any editing to this. This is off the standard Android / Samsung camera app. So how does it look? Oop, I'm losing. There we go. There we go. Can we focus? There we go. How does this look in studio light? That's always the thing, right? I find cell phones work really well in natural light, but in studio light, a lot of the times, we'll just say they struggle. That'll be the polite way to say it. So actually, this is the video, and this is the. Oh, whoop, I'm covering it up. Am I covering it up? No. Okay, so the middle one's the main one. So this is the video, and this is the audio from the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra with that main camera. Hey, this is actually editing, Gary. I'm editing the unboxing video as we speak. This might be the best I've ever seen a cell phone camera work indoors with studio light. That's no hyperbole. That's no overexcited YouTuber. Nobody's paying me to say this. Samsung's not sponsoring this. I bought this phone myself. Legitimately, that might be the best I've ever seen. This phone's really, really impressing me so far. Okay, let's go and see how the rest of the cameras do. Okay, so now we are on the ultra wide angle camera, which is okay. The ultra wide's the one all the way on top. The main one's in the middle, and then I assume that means the telephoto is the one on the right. So again, how's this camera looking? I really have always wanted to find like a good camera that could work both for like quick studio shots in here that I need them, and then outdoors as well. So let's see how that looks and sounds. And then most importantly for me, how is the selfie camera? Like everybody laughs at the selfie camera, but the selfie camera is something that I use all the time. It is very, very important to me. Okay. So this is the selfie camera of the S24 Ultra. One thing to note, this is all going to be in 1080p. From this camera, these main cameras are all going to be 4K. You're probably not going to see a difference unless you yourself are on a 4K or above monitor. So if you do notice some resolution differences, that's why. So I don't know. Looking from the screen here, it looks pretty good. I'm really hopeful that there's not some kind of like weird HDR thing that goes on in the background, right? So if this looks this good on the computer when I just go to edit this, okay. So how does this look and sound? The screen is so big, like it's crazy to think about. Okay, so those were the cameras. I'm pretty happy with the cameras here. Let's draw something real quick with our stylus, because no big deal. We have a stylus now. Just right. Hello. Hello. Oh my goodness, and it's like a combined fidget tool. I know it's not for fidgeting, right? But like that's gonna get me in trouble at work. Let's create a note, and I will say, oh, I don't want this. Next, start. Thank you. Let's draw a face, because it's like the only thing I can draw, and I don't even draw it very well. Look, he's got hair, he's got ears, he's got a neck with some shoulders, and that's pretty much all I got. That is the extent of my artistic capabilities. But much like the S Pen on my tab, I really like this. Like the tip here, I really find that this emulates writing with a pen much more. And I write with pens all day long. Something that I've always struggled to do is how do I get my analog notes into digital? Normally I have to air gap it, right? I have to take all my notes during a meeting, then I come back to my computer and I input them that way. If I could get my notes in the AI here to help me like write my notes and then automatically like populate that digitally, ooh, this is gonna be dangerous. Take a picture with that. That's so cool. So here, hold on. Let's set this. Okay, so we set it over on a desk over here. Dude, that's so good. That's so cool. Don't mind me in my sweatpants right here. We're in my comfy time at the house. Oh, I cannot wait to put this through some of its paces. We're at like 24 minutes of recording right now. You don't need to see me just geeking out over all the cool stuff that I can't wait to find in here. The Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra is probably the most modular piece of tech that I've ever seen. So let's talk about all the best accessories that you can use to turn this into more than just a phone. Okay, so first off, let's start off with the easy ones. The Samsung Galaxy Watch. I love this little thing. I've got a whole video on it by itself, so I'm not going to delve too far into it today, but if you need a smartwatch, I prefer having a smartwatch of the brand of phone that I'm talking about. So the way we're going to structure this video is we're going to start from just the phone and we're going to build it out into the different configurations that I think I'm going to use this in. And this kit specifically is a kit that I'm about to take with me like the day after this video goes live on a 1-week business trip, and this is going to be the only computer I'm going to take. So I'm really excited to check this stuff out. First off, I've got everything in this bag from a company called Tripped. You don't have to get this one, but I would recommend a tech bag because there are a lot of things involved in this, which is pretty great. So first off, we're going to talk about the minimum configuration that I think you could use to get actual work done. Obviously, the phone by itself, if you want to use it as just a phone, just get a case. I personally won't because I like to live dangerously, and I think the 24 in its natural state is so good. But two things off the bat, if you want to take this from a phone to like a straight up note taking for class or even business conferences, first off, you need some kind of a little stand. These things are incredible. This is just a little plastic stand. It weighs next to nothing. It came with this keyboard that we'll talk about in a second, but all you really need is just something to hold the phone up. What I found with the Ultra specifically, the screen is almost as big as a tablet, right? You don't have to set it horizontally. You don't have to buy other things to get it up and back. Just in its natural state, it works really well with just a little kickstand. And then you can get something like this travel Bluetooth keyboard that takes this and team, I'm not kidding. I've written some of my YouTube video scripts so far just on this alone. This right here is so powerful. I don't even know the purpose of a tablet anymore. With all my YouTuber hyperbole aside, this right here is fantastic. If you do nothing else from this video, the bare minimum to turn the S24 Ultra into a legitimate productivity device, better than just about anything. But if we do want to take it a little further, let's go. Let's say we have a meeting that we want to direct or we want to participate in straight from the Ultra. Something you can add to this kit is the Logitech MX Anywhere 3. This little mouse is like a companion to my favorite mouse of all time, the MX Master 3, and it's pretty darn good. It doesn't have all the same functionality. Obviously, it's a smaller mouse, but you still get a very nice scroll wheel. You get customizable buttons here on the side. I've been using this via Bluetooth. You get 3 customizable settings in here. It charges via USB-C. This mouse is fantastic. I've used the Logitech Pebble before in the past, but once you use this, there's no going back. And then if you're in a meeting and you need to hear things, the Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 are also really darn good. The thing you may notice in my videos talking about the S24 and all of this Samsung stuff is Samsung's ecosystem, I think, is on par or better than Apple's, depending on the circumstance. The only thing I don't like about the Galaxy Buds, the repairing process is a little more difficult than on something like the AirPods. The AirPods have a button you just press and it happens. Here you have to put them in your ears and then like unpair them and then it's kind of a pain, but they're still really good. The audio quality is great. Noise cancellation is okay. It's not class leading by any stretch of the imagination, but it's good enough. Combine this together, look at what we've got right here. This is an actual productivity collaboration tool now. This isn't like, oh, you got to do all these asterisks or you've got to, use it in a weird way. No, straight up, this by itself, you can work anywhere in the world with these things right here. It's remarkable. But let's say you've got to take it a step further. Now we've got to charge it because we've got to power some other devices. I think the best charger for the S24 Ultra, and one of the best ones that I've used, period, is the Samsung super fast charging adapter. I do kind of wish it was a little more modular, but this has power that can be provided 65 watts, 25 watts, both of those USB-C, or 15 watts for USB-A. 3 devices for 1 outlet. That's like if you're traveling, it's always hard sometimes to find multiple outlets. Boom, you got to get something like this. You need this power to set up something else. We've also got cables which have specific uses. I didn't just put cables in here for the sake of it. We've got a cable that came with something, and then we've got a cable from Anker. But let's say you want to take this from mobile productivity into actual productivity. You could get a portable monitor. This is a portable monitor from a company called UPerfect, and it's crazy lightweight. It wasn't that expensive, and you can take these cables and these pieces and parts and you can turn this, no kidding, into a laptop. Boom, look at that. Can you see? Look at this. I'm not kidding when I say now you've gone from having a phone to having a laptop. You've got the mouse, you've got a keyboard. Check this out. Accessory video test. Okay? Boom. Look at this craziness. And then another accessory that I kind of got a little overexcited about is bring some kind of a travel mouse pad with you. This is a traveling mouse pad from Corsair. It rolls up and fits in backpacks like super small. And then when you get to where you're going, you just roll it out. There are smaller ones, better travel ones out there, but I like a little bit of a bigger mouse pad, and I like neoprene. I don't like some of those other ones we've tried out here in the past. But look at this. From this kit that fit in that little bag, we've got a literal laptop with us. This screen is bigger than a MacBook Air 13-inch, and it's just about as big as a MacBook Air 15, and it weighs more than a pound less than my 15-inch MacBook Air. So that means you're carrying less. It costs less than $100 compared to how expensive a MacBook Air is. All of this stuff together just lets you build and build and build. And once we put this all together, you got to carry it around somewhere, right? So once you're all packed up and ready to go, you now need a bag to put this in. And unfortunately, team, my Lenovo bag has died. Years later, my $15 Lenovo backpack has died. So now we're gonna put this all in the Briggs & Riley travel laptop backpack. This bag is so good. It's very expensive. Like, don't let me lie to you. This bag is crazy expensive, but this might be the best travel laptop bag I've ever seen. You can see here, it's just constructed really well of their ballistic nylon. You've heard me talk about this in the past if you've watched previous accessory videos, but the stitching on here is so good. The zippers are all great, and I am a zipper snob, like straight up without any hesitation or embarrassment. What I like most about this bag is in both compartments, the front and the back, you get a ton of space. So you get this gigantic compartment here in the front that can fit the tech bag and all of your other accessories. But here in the back, the main like laptop part opens so far up. Look at that. It's almost like a little suitcase, which easily fits my mouse pad and my portable display. Boom, boom. I actually would not leave that like this. This would get rolled up like I showed you earlier. Zip up the front. Boom. It is ready to go. And listen to this. Listen to the zipper. I love zippers. This also fits with other luggage. That's the reason I bought this specific bag, where you can put it on a roll carry-on bag, or you can carry it, or you can just use it as a regular backpack. Again, the point of this is the S24 Ultra is so modular. It can go from just a regular phone, you're watching YouTube videos, whatever, to portable productivity, to actual productivity. And you could, we're not going to do it here because this is all about the accessories that I'm going to use on a trip here soon, but you could also plug this thing into a dock and into a straight up home computer. This is super versatile, and these are all the accessories. This is so versatile, I could talk about this for days at a time. The Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra is a marvel of technology. So what are some of the best tips and tricks? What are some cool things that you can actually get done with this? Let's find out. The very first few of these is going to be aimed at those of us, me included, that might be transferring from an iPhone to the Android. Now, the first thing, you may have skipped this or you may not have done this when you first set up the phone, but I would recommend transferring the data via USB-C. This is a very easy process, even if you decided to skip it when you first started opening up your phone. All you have to do is go to settings, click on the little magnifying glass, you know, the search that everything's named after, type in transfer, and then you'll be able to go from there to starting the transfer over via USB-C. You could do this wirelessly, however, that's going to take a whole lot longer. You plug in the cable, you do a few steps on your iPhone, and boom, you are up and running. Depending on how much stuff you have, it could take longer or shorter. It took me about 30 minutes to transfer everything because I have a lot of apps, a lot of pictures, a lot of contacts, all that stuff. But once you do, you are up and ready to go. The second thing, I wanted to talk about this while we're still talking about setup, is when you swipe down on notifications, that does give you a range of controls and things that you can use quickly on your phone. However, if you swipe down again, that gives you a whole host of new options, from airplane mode to flashlight, mobile hotspot, power saving, screen recorder, link to Windows, which is kind of like what Apple does, DeX, which is pretty important to me, multi-control, which we will actually talk about later, but a whole bunch of things that just give you a little more control over your phone without having to dive into the settings screen. I love this thing. I use it on my tab all of the time. Okay, hey, we had to come over to the unboxing desk so I could show you a couple more things here on the phones. The next thing's really cool because taking care of your tech is very important. A little bit of preventative maintenance saves all the trouble in the world, right? So one of the cool things that you can do with Samsung phones and the 24 Ultra specifically, you can run diagnostics internally. All you have to do is we came to settings, you type in diagnostics. It can spell for me. You can see here inside of device care, you'll go all the way down. This is also where you would update your software. But all you have to do is tap on diagnostics, phone diagnostics, and it gives you a whole range of things that it can test, up to 26 different kinds of tests. You could just tap test all if you want to do this, but hey, say maybe you're worried about your power restart status. You can test it and it'll check it out. These are cool things that you can do to just make sure everything's working well on your phone. And it took seconds to make happen. And it's just nice to be able to do this on your own without having to go to a repair person, without having to plug this into something, a diagnostic tool. You get all of that built into the phone. The next thing I want to talk about has to do with all of these beautiful cameras over here. Again, if you are a Samsung diehard, you probably already know this stuff, but this is something that I found out as I've been using this phone over the past couple of days. For the cameras, you can actually set it up into pro mode on your own. Now, what that means is you can have a lot of manual control over the cameras yourself. You can set things like shutter speed, ISO, you can manually focus the camera. You can't change the aperture because these are fixed aperture cameras. Apple does the same thing, but this gives you a lot more control over this than you would normally get. For example, for Apple, with the standard app, you get very, very little control. You have to download an additional app, and some of those apps you have to pay for if you actually want to get a lot of the controls over it. But I really just like this. I'm kind of a big video nerd, and I like that the pro video section also lets you check audio levels. It gives you a little histogram here to make sure you're exposing properly. Now, you're not going to be able to see that too much if you're in front of the camera, but these are nice tools to have if you take video a little more seriously than just tap to record. Okay, the next tip is one of the big selling points of the 24 series as a whole is the AI features that come enabled with it. One is Google Circles. Now, this is a way to sort of visually search Google. So to do this, you just hold down on the home button, then you just draw around the object, and now it will search for it. So it found that this is a Wear S5 watch, which it actually is. Check it out. Wear S5 mechanical watch. Pretty cool. But yeah, it's that easy. You could do this with anything. This is just a picture I took. Let's say I'm on YouTube watching a very long video about a game I'm never going to play, but I'm curious, hey, what game actually is this? Scan and circle. Boom, Signalis. It's just that easy. So it's a way to quickly visually scan an image or text and have Google run a search for that for you. This is so great. There's so many times I'm like, what does that image look like? Or what is that? What is that? What is that? And I can't like describe what the logo is in a Google search. This way, you don't have to describe it anymore. You just hold the button, circle it. So cool. Another awesome thing that the AI can help you with is translating and typing out text in the first place. First off, for translation, just go to your text messages. Here's one when I was getting a haircut. You then tap on text messages and you see this little icon right here with the stars. That's the AI. You tap on that, chat translation. It will auto do it. But let's say we want to take this and we want to translate it to Spanish. Boom. It just does it automatically for you. And then as you are talking or as you are chatting with somebody, it can do this in real time. That's so powerful to be able to communicate with people, even though you don't speak this, you physically don't speak the same language. That's incredible. Bringing people together. I know it's kind of sappy for tech sometimes, but I really like tech that can bring people together. And this one is really, really good. We're not going to make this the AI video, but another thing the AI can do is when you go to edit photos, you can see here now it's blue. The AI will help you reimagine your image. You can turn it and then generate. Now the AI should generate the rest of what's going on in the photo. Boom. Done. Looks all right. I mean, I don't know that I would say that that's totally perfect, but another important thing that I see people beat phones up all the time is battery protection. We talked about preventative maintenance a little bit earlier in the video when we talked about being able to run diagnostics, but something that I really want you to be able to see for your phone is that you can also do a little bit of battery protection on here. So go down into settings to device care, tap on the battery. And then see it says battery protection, power saving, things like this. Battery protection will give you some options. You can do basic, adaptive, or maximum. I will do maximum. This says right here, so it will stop charging your battery when it hits 80% unless you override it to charge it for more. Now, lithium ion batteries, we're not going to get into a huge lithium ion battery discussion here. And they don't like being at 0% and they don't like being at 100%. So the more you can keep it in that middle, that's great. But if you are going to be traveling and you're going to be away from the wall, you're going to be away from outlets, charging, stuff like that, you can turn this off and then you should be really good to go. You will got to protect your batteries because that's like the biggest investment in this phone, right? If you tear up the battery and it has terrible battery life, then you're just carrying around a big old gigantic brick, right? And then one more thing that I wanted to show while we're still here at the desk is I guess this is more of like a Tab S9 thing than it is an Ultra thing, but it's so cool and it involves the Ultra that I really wanted to share it with you today. So there's a way that you can do screen sharing between the two devices. Check this out. Now you can see here on my Tab S9, I have my travel mouse on. You can see I've got the device set up in DeX mode. I generally always have my Tab S9 set up in DeX mode, but what you can do is you can connect your two devices with multi-control via the DeX menu. What that gives you is the ability to, so I've got a mouse here, I can go between the two devices. Let's say I have my notes set up on my phone. I want to be able to check those while I'm working. Hey, guess what? We can copy and then paste those over here. Boom, or vice versa. It lets you use the two as dual screen technology, which I'm always a big fan of. I love being able to have multiple screens with the same small kit that I'm always bringing with me. So I love Dex. Like I've made whole videos about Dex in the past, but this is a cool one that'll work between your Tab and your Ultra. But what about you? Actually, trickery here today. We have a bonus tip and trick. Check this out. This is the S Pen, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Gary, I know that you can take pictures with the little button here. I know all the fancy stuff you can do, but here's my bonus tip. Isn't that so cool? You can use this just like a regular pen. I don't know about you, but during the workday, I am clicking pens a lot. Holy crap, I love this so much. This right here is the whole reason I made this video. I had to share this specifically with somebody, and that somebody got to be you. First off, I would like to mention that nobody provided me this phone. Nobody is paying me to make this video. No one is going to swoop down and threaten me with the loss of access or anything from what I say today. You're getting my unvarnished opinion for better and for worse. I purchased this and all the tech I talk about in this video myself. Let's start off with the dislikes. There aren't any substantial dislikes. Yes, I've got a few quibbles that we'll get to, but big picture, it's great. And I'm going to say this right up front. This is the single best cell phone that I've ever used in my life. First quibble though, the price is real darn steep. The S24 Ultra costs more than I generally recommend people spend for whole computers. It costs almost an entire other phone difference between its base model and the M1 MacBook Air. Yes, you could buy a whole other phone for the difference between this and the laptop that I always recommend. You do need to pay for quality, but we're getting into a blurry territory with a phone this expensive where it seems to exist mainly to be financed, and you should never ever finance a phone. I may make a whole video about that itself. Don't, especially if you're a kid. Do not finance cell phones. Second quibble, and it's not something I'd noticed until folks mentioned it in my unboxing video comments. The vivid display picture mode is the same as natural. When you go between the two, you cannot see an increase in saturation. You do see a slight difference, but that appears to be because of color balance changes that you can make when in vivid mode. When I try the same thing on my Z Flip 5, you can see a difference in saturation between those modes. I'm sure this will get fixed in a software update in the future, but it is something to note as of the release of this video. That's it. Anything I might complain about has more to do with things outside of the physical S24 Ultra and not complaints about the phone itself. Well then, Gary, what have you liked? In short, a lot. First off, the build quality of this phone is unreal. And when I say build quality, I'm lumping in the design. This might be the best design phone that I've ever held in my hand. And team, something I want you to note, I've been making YouTube videos for a very long time. I've been a tech enjoyer for a very long time. This is the pinnacle of what a glass slab cell phone can be. The size is cumbersome at times, I'm not gonna lie about that, but the silvered edges, the frosted back, the orange, it all comes together so well. In actual use, the phone feels smaller than it really is. But I mean that in a good way. Because the phone is so rectangular, the thickness of the phone actually feels less. It's almost the exact opposite problem I have with the iPhone Pro, the smaller Pro lineup, where it's actually smaller and dense, so it feels bigger in a bad way. But while the phone feels smaller, the display built into it feels gigantic at all times. I'm not exactly sure how they pulled off this illusion. Even being acutely aware of the trick, I still can't get my hands and my brain to wrap around how it happens. The buttons are all great, the phone fits well in pockets from jeans to blazers. Always carry your phone in a jacket pocket if possible. It looks better, it's smart, it feels better to pull my phone out of my jacket pocket, makes me feel like I'm a real adult. I've also really liked the display. I know some folks are grumpy about the vivid profile thing, but I don't personally like phones to be so saturated my eyeballs like ache from looking at it. This display has been incredible. It refreshes fast. It feels very sure when I tap. It can go bright enough outdoors to very easily read text without having to like shade the screen from the sun or hide under a tree, and that's about as much as you could use from a screen, right? Those things right there. My favorite part about the display though is none of that. My favorite part is the anti-glare. And I don't know how Samsung achieved this, but this might be the best controlled glare glass surface I've ever seen. And I said that, glare glass surface, I only did that in one take. I'm pretty proud of myself for that. I don't normally talk about anti-glare in videos because you don't really think about it often. If you get glares, that's a problem. That's how good this is. The display doesn't feel matte or rough in use, but it looks matte when a glare hits it. And I've not seen a light source that can glare it up so much the phone becomes harder to use. I guess I don't have access to every kind of light source in the world, so maybe one exists out there? But for me, it's been awesome. The next thing I've liked are the cameras. Yes, it's my first time with a Samsung Ultra, so maybe these are the same cameras year over year, but dang, I still like them. This should not be a controversial statement, but I think all cell phone cameras are good enough for outside photos. I'm not even going to argue that today. There are whole channels dedicated to pixel peeping on these that you can go watch to find out like which one specifically is better. Where all modern cell phones struggle is indoors under artificial light. Heck, even my iPhone 15 Pro Max, just released a couple of months ago, had some real weird oddities about it in this exact setting. But from what I've seen on the S24 Ultra and the S24, the main Samsung wide-angle camera handles indoors better than anything I've ever seen. I legitimately think you could use this as an actual YouTube camera by itself, and that's definitely not a controversial statement. People have been wildly successful using phones way before Gary here said it. Even for a camera snob like me, this is pretty darn good. The front-facing camera has been okay. I'm not as in love with it. Colors and skin tones are fine, but you can absolutely see the difference in sensor size and quality even on lower end displays. Everything just kind of has a lot of noise in it even when it's very well lit. It's clearly not the end of the world, but I really don't like the front-facing one as much as I like the rest, which does have an outsized influence on me personally as I use the front-facing cameras on my phones all the time. I would almost say they're my primary cameras, just in general. Power-wise, the phone seems fine. I'm generally not one to get wrapped up in the bar chart chasing bit wars of spec enjoyers, but everything's been super smooth, and the phone never even hints that it's struggling, even when I've got many things open at the same time, and this will get more relevant in the next section. One thing I'm very happy about is that Samsung's committed to 7 years of updates here, which is more in line with the industry standard. We'll actually have to see what those updates look like in the future, but having this be relevant that long means if you are spending this intense amount of money, at least you don't have to spend it again next year. And that's why power and processors matter the most in smartphones. Longevity. And yes, I'll continue to say that in all smartphone videos I make, because when I watch other people's videos and they're like, oh, look at the numbers go up. Yeah, okay. What matters is how long can you use this investment that you've put into it? Because this is enough money, I would consider this an investment. I like but don't love the AI features in the phone. We'll have to wait for a much longer follow-up video to see how they've improved over time. But here and today, it's a neat little trick, but the generative photo editing hasn't won me over. The AI writing seems to be making us think less as people, The translator is cool, but other companies do that without needing to potentially charge for an AI buddy to help. And I don't know that I like the amount of my data that's probably being shared with the AI model to help improvement. So it's fine, but it's only fine. Battery life has been excellent. For example, I wrote the entire script for this video on the Ultra 2. And by the time I got to this point in the script, I'd written for over an hour on the phone and the battery life had dropped 2%. That's with me doing more than just working in Google Docs. I had to reconfirm statements, I checked other apps, we did some research. That makes this phone right up there with my iPhone 15 Pro Max for usable life. Much like pixel peeping in the camera, if you want to see specific battery tests, there are battery tests all the way out there. For usable regular people, it's real good. Charging has also been okay. The S24 Ultra can do 45 watts of charging, which I've found to give me back huge chunks of life in short periods of time. May not be class leading, but it's been pretty good. Let me tell you about something else that I've really liked in the past week. The S Pen. Not just because you can write on the screen, my handwriting is hideous and it's even worse when I have to do it on a screen. Not just because it can be used as a camera shutter remote, which you actually have to buy those separate for real cameras. The S Pen clicks like a real pen. I love this so much, and I have absolutely been driving my wife crazy clicking this all the time. I assume at some point it's going to mysteriously vanish, but until that happens, I'm just gonna keep clicking. I'm gonna keep clicking, but let's move on to my favorite part in my last week with the S24 Ultra, the modularity. Legitimately, you can, and I have, used this in a ton of different cases, going from talking on a family call, to writing documents, to travel laptop, to home computer. That's not YouTuber hyperbole. I'm not doing the funny thumbnail face here. This might be the single most modular piece of tech that I've ever seen. Starting from just the phone, nothing is needed here. Maybe just get a case and a screen protector. Moving up to a portable collaboration tool, as we saw in my previous accessory video, you can get a little phone stand and a little folding keyboard and be good to go. The size of the screen is just big enough that you can use it vertically as a little computer comfortably. Yes, you could do something similar with a laptop, but laptops are, and trust me, when you are crammed in a conference, laptops are not really good in that space. You can even go from there and add in a mouse and portable monitor, and after swapping to DeX mode, your phone has now turned into a little faux laptop that weighs less than my MacBook Air. For real, it's like a pound less than my MacBook Air. DeX is more like a Chromebook than either a Windows laptop or a MacBook, but crap, that's more than enough for me, especially when I'm out traveling. And if that's more than enough for you all the time, you can take this up past its limiter and actually have this be your home computer. You plug it into a USB-C, not Thunderbolt, dock or dongle, real keyboard, big monitor, and without exaggeration, this is now a home computer. Yes, you'll be limited from gaming, and that kind of sucks, but I've said this plenty of times in the past, I only personally have a computer for YouTube and World of Warcraft. If I didn't have those two requirements, I wouldn't own a computer at all, and I would manage my life from my phone, and I guarantee there are a whole lot of you out there that do the same. All right, Gary, you've talked about it enough. Would you recommend the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra? Yes, but with an asterisk. In a vacuum that doesn't use money, the S24 Ultra is the single best cell phone I've ever used. Not the best Samsung phone, but this has been one of the best tech experiences that I've ever had. But we do live in a world where things cost money, and this costs so much money. You could get most of what I've talked about today in either the S24 standard, which comes in at $440 less, or even an Amazon renewed S23 Ultra for about $500 less. Think more about the functionality and less about the new shiny stuff, and you can be so much better off. It's great, but like, is it worth that much extra for that little bit better? This is my iPhone 15 Pro Max, and for the next week, it's gonna go in a place where I'm never gonna see it again. And we'll be swapping to this, what I'm holding in my hand now, my Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. So what's the worst that could happen? Okay, so it's actually been 2 weeks, and holy crap, what a 2 weeks. So essentially, my son got sick, which led to me getting sick, which you've probably heard in the last couple of videos, which has led to a cascading chain of events, meaning the last 2 weeks have felt like 2 whole darn months. But in the positive column of that sentiment for you, means I've had a ton of time to lounge around and use the S24 Ultra. Today I want to talk about experiences and how the swap to an Android ecosystem as a whole went, because it can't just be the phone by itself anymore, right? Like, how did that all go, and where was the friction and frustrations I had over the past couple of weeks. I mean, that was the first hurdle I had to overcome. Switching to the Ultra sounds so easy. I mean, look at this thing. It's great. But I normally carry a lot of tech with me, and most of that is Apple. So not only did I have to swap out my phone, but I had to swap out my Apple Watch for a Galaxy Watch, and I swapped out my MacBook for the Tab S9. But as I already had all these things, setup was no big deal. It was actually kind of trivial, really. And if you'd like a more in-depth video on a similar ecosystem as a whole, I'll leave a link below for something like that. The first software hurdle to overcome was text messaging, which is where the dreaded green bubble, blue bubble conversation gets heated up, or I guess pondered over, because it doesn't make any sense to folks that don't live in the US. Texting with my family did cause some additional friction. I had to start group chats over again because the previous versions were all via iMessage. And okay, fairness for fairness sake, it was kind of a pain at first, but once you get into it, it's not that big of a deal. You just get used to those group messages. For gaming, that's really the only other place where I text a lot of people, and I just use Discord. So I guarantee the people that I've been playing WoW Classic Season of Discovery Phase 2, which just came out by the way, and it's I've been no-lifing that. But my guildmates have no idea whether I swap from an iPhone to a Samsung. So all communication has not been that bad. And physically texting has been great though. I really like the keyboard here and the way that it's spaced out across the width of this gigantic display. I was kind of worried that because the phone is so big that there might be problems like on a big tablet. You try typing on an iPad or something, sometimes it's hard to get your thumbs where they need to go. But this might be the best cell phone typing experience I've had since physical keyboards still existed on phones. And I guess that segues pretty nicely into talking about just actually holding the phone compared to my iPhone in general. And I really think I prefer the Ultra's design. Now, both are good and both feel great to use, but something about the more rectangular shape here just feels better. I said this in the 2 weeks later video a couple of weeks ago, but there is some kind of a trick going on here where the phone feels smaller than it actually is, like in a good way. Like the phone feels small, but the screen feels gigantic. It's a trick of the mind that I don't know how they did this. But the Ultra feels slim and sleek, and it hasn't caused me any fatigue to hold, even when I'm out running, which I was able to take this out running for the first time today. I will say though, aesthetically, the 4-camera 1-sensor configuration on the back looks kind of goofy. I know looks don't matter that much, but if I'm going to quibble about something today, I much prefer the look of the triple camera array on the iPhone to the tall tower of power that are Samsung's cameras. If we look away from the cameras and we just overall looks, this is the single best looking phone that I've ever used. Moving from physically using it to the software underneath, I didn't see that big of a difference between the two, and I know that is blasphemy in some sections of the internet. Both operating systems are pretty comparable in the stock configuration. Yes, I know you can do all sorts of customization to Android phones, but I'm a pretty basic person and I generally just use either the stock phone or included templates. Like I'm not going to go through any like scripts or anything crazy here. I liked being able to set up basically the exact same home screen and secondary screens as I have on my iPhone. Everything is simple to find, and even setting the Ultra up from the iPhone was generally pretty easy, plugging them both into USB-C. The process of transferring over my texts, photos, apps, information from the iPhone to the Ultra was pretty darn easy. I did run into a little bit of a headache when the transfer was over, though. The problem is the Ultra did its best to emulate how I had my iPhone set up with that process. And maybe it's just me and the time that I tried to do it, but it kind of made a mess of my phone. Apps were bundled together pretty weird. Some weren't there, some were mislabeled. It was great that it had everything, but I did have to take some time after the fact to clean it all up. So probably still a net time gain to do the transfer instead of starting from scratch, but absolutely something to be aware of before you make the switch. That's why we did the actual swap, so I could talk you through like the friction points that I found. I really like the settings options here, and Samsung's ability to find what I needed was fast and efficient. I haven't really used a big old Android phone since my Note 2 many years ago, and one of the things that I think gets overblown from both Apple and Android users is the assumption that the other side is overcomplicated or hard to figure out. I thought navigating to find specific apps or settings or features was super easy, and again, the gigantic glass screen and ease of typing made it very simple to get up and running. Like I was able to be up and doing all the things I needed to do within hours. Moving over into the cameras, I really like the cameras on the S24 Ultra. I've heard from y'all in the comments that these are very similar to, if not identical to, the cameras in the 23 Ultra, so it's not new to you, but it is definitely new to me, and I think these have been awesome. Photo-wise, like I said, I've been kind of stuck in the house the last couple of weeks, so I haven't been able to get out and about to take too many photos, but the video has gotten a lot of use for me because I've been using it here in the YouTube videos. As we opened up this whole video, I did it on this because these cameras are really great. And what makes it even better is the default camera app here is way better than the default camera app in iOS. You can set it into pro mode and have more detail control here without needing to download an extra app. And that is great because sometimes you have to pay for some of those pro camera apps. Here, it's just all included. My favorite part has been the focus peaking. That's where you can just see what's in focus and what's out of focus. I'm kind of a camera snob and I try to do manual focus for everything except these YouTube talking head parts. And the S24 Ultra with the Pro Tools and this gigantic screen made nailing focus so easy. I know it's not as hard to pull focus as like on a 1.4 prime lens, but when my tech can be made easier to use all around, it just makes me happy. And I have to say, the thing I've liked most over the past couple of weeks over iOS, just over anything, is the modularity of this phone. And I know I've said that a lot in previous videos, but I can't get over it. I've used this a ton with that little kickstand and keyboard that I showed in my accessories video. This has been my power work combo. It's how I've written all of my YouTube scripts. It's helped me do all of my research. It's just great. Seriously, combine that with the mouse implementation on this mobile operating system, it's been top notch, and it has pretty much let me turn my Ultra into a straight up tablet. I do wish you could get that DeX multi-window support straight on the phone, like on the Tab S9. Maybe there is a way to do that, and I haven't found it yet, but that would be, I think this display is big enough that you could get away with that. That would make this so good. And DeX though, just DeX as a whole. Plugging this phone into my portable monitor is breaking my brain in a good way. I cannot believe that in such a small kit, I can have most of what I need a laptop for. And the Ultra is powerful enough for me not to miss carrying around a laptop or carrying around a tablet. Okay, the only thing that suffers in this laptop type mode are the speakers aren't as good as carrying around a regular laptop, be that Windows or Mac. And while I'm not an audiophile, I haven't really liked listening to YouTube videos or music from the phone in this way. I'm not saying the speakers on the phone are bad. They're fantastic for phone speakers, but they can't compare to my MacBook Pro 16. Yes, my Buds Pro 2 have bridged the gap, and it's not the primary way in which this phone was designed, but it's my video and I can cry if I want to. Talking about accessories, something that the Ultra has that the iPhone will never have is a built-in fidget toy. And sure, that's probably not what Samsung engineers intended when they included the S Pen, but I love this clicking. I love this clicking so much. It's not all sunshine though. I have had some significant problems swapping, and those problems are steep enough that I'm not sure that I could stay here long term. And the frustrating part about that is it's not the Samsung ecosystem or the Samsung tech per se. There are no technical problems causing my issues. It's boring old middle-aged dude family things. My family right now is all in on iOS, macOS. They all have Apple IDs, which is how we give my son his allowance, how we do family app purchases, just a big chunk of our bank activity, grown-up adult things like bank bills, stuff like that, is done via iOS and our Apple ID. It's more of that like account that we use more than the physical hardware that matters. Frankly, iMessage, for all the tech and all the ink that gets spilled about it, it's the least grippy of the hooks that Apple gets in you when you start using their tech. I have to figure out all sorts of workarounds and cheats to make family tech still happen. I can log into Apple ID via web browser for some functions, which would let me do some of the things, and that's fine. Maybe that will be the thing I do because I'm probably going to keep my MacBook. Moving like checking accounts for bills and stuff, that's not easy, and you don't always want to do it. And if you're just doing it because you want a little bit fancier of a phone, it's so much harder to even consider swapping, and it hurts. It actually kind of hurts because I want to use this phone primarily, and I'm not big enough of a dork to carry around two phones if I don't have to. And at the end of the day, that's really it. 2 weeks of use, it's been so good. I like this phone so much, but I'm gonna need to figure out a way to make sure that I can use this and keep paying my bills at the same time. I've been using the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra for a solid month now. Now, we did do a short-term follow-up video a couple of weeks ago, so today we're gonna do our best to avoid retreading the exact same ground again, but there will be some overlap with this being more refined and up-to-date opinions. One quick note before we get started, Samsung is not sponsoring this video. Samsung isn't paying me. They didn't give me this phone. They didn't do anything to entice my opinion on this. I paid for the S24 Ultra with my own money. Now today I'm not going to bore you with a spec ordering overview to bloat the video because we already did that last time. So let's not beat around the bush any longer and let's start off with the things I don't like, because nothing in this world, team, if you didn't know, nothing is perfect. This is one part that's going to be very similar to last time. The only thing that I really just don't like about the phone is the price. $12.99 for a cell phone. It's just too much. Like, I mean, I get it. You have to pay for quality and you have to pay for cutting edge technology, but this much money really kind of turns this into a vanity purchase. And I know, I get it. That's going to spark a bunch of spicy comments below. It's less that I dislike the price of this phone and more that I don't like that kids are the target of all the marketing material that I've seen. $12.99 is a ton of money. And despite all the, look, I get it, all the grown-ups who have your finances under control saying that you finance your phone, that's fine. But the thought of kids like mine buying a phone that costs more than my first car, that just doesn't sit well with me. And Apple does the same thing. So I'm not saying this is a one-way Samsung problem. So boiled down, I don't like how expensive flagship phones have gotten in the past few years. You can get most of what this phone does far cheaper in either a used S23 Ultra or an S24 regular. Those are not cheap themselves, but it does make me feel better about giving you more budget-friendly options at the same time. That's really my only complaint because physically, the phone is flawless. I don't have a single complaint about the phone itself if we set a boundary in my office. Like, see that door right there? On the other side of that door, money doesn't matter in here. Though that's a dangerous philosophy that I'm not going to say too loud because my wife would probably get pretty mad of all the stuff that I would buy in a money-free environment. Okay, one other, it's not a dislike, but it's a meh, but it could veer into dislike in time. The AI features, for me at least, are a pretty big gimmick. The only one that I've regularly used is the Google Circle that lets you perform searches on digital images, videos, whatever. Everything else is a neat promotional idea, but it hasn't quite become useful to me. That's the meh part. The veering into the dislike part is if Samsung starts charging for this in the future. To each their own. If you use them, like you use the AI generative photo stuff, that's great. If I like everything, that could cause this video to be like an hour long, and it's going to be hard to constrain to a single YouTube video. So let's bound this by saying, what are my top 5 favorite things about the phone 1 month later, so we're not here all day. First off, easily, it's the build quality. I cannot say enough good things about how this phone looks and how the phone feels. Yes, I also know a lot of that material and design comes from the $12.99 that I complained about earlier, but remember, we're now in the TED office, which is housed in a vortex where money, there's no money in here. This phone is straight up gorgeous, with my favorite part being where the frosted glass back and the sides meet. And I know that that's going to be kind of like a dorky thing to appreciate, but the way the silver edge and the colored back meets just makes this phone look so good. I'm a sucker for a matte finish, and that this is matte all the way around, but in a contrasting color kind of way. You'd think a big rectangular slab of glass would be boring, and then if you thought that, you'd be just like me before I got this, because that's what I thought it would be. There is a simple elegance here that I haven't seen in other devices, either from Samsung or Apple. I'd have to say the Google Pixel 5, oddly enough, don't know that I've ever talked about the Google Pixel 5. That was the last phone where I just could not get enough of the design. My second favorite part of this phone is the display. Yes, the technical specs and the display, they're very impressive, and I would go so far to say that technically it's the best display I've ever seen. Very fast refresh rate, bright enough to use as a flashlight by itself. Those aside, the S24 Ultra is the first phone that I've really felt is the phablet. Like, that term was coined back in the, oh wow, maybe as far back as 93? Not only is it big enough to make YouTube watching or movie watching or whatever your content of choice is horizontally, all of that stuff can be done on any phone. I really like that the screen is wide enough that you can get horizontal things done even when it's in the vertical orientation. You've heard me use this specific use case several times in the past couple of weeks, but it keeps being true. I've loved setting this down in a little stand and getting some word processing done wherever I'm at. And that kind of segues into the third thing that I've really liked, the versatility of the phone. Yes, we've all heard me talk about DeX, but it's all of that and all the things this can do together that blows me away. that this phone, yes, it is a phone as expensive as some computers. Let's not forget that it can go from simple texting to a really good note taker or study buddy to a virtual collaboration tool to a laptop to a home computer. That fascinates me. And I've even seen some really cool photos on Reddit of how people use DeX and their Samsung phones and tablets as their only computing devices. And that's the thing that I like. That kind of provides that future convergence of tech that sci-fi TV shows. Laptops have essentially been the same device since they came out, like when I was a kid. Yes, they've gotten smaller, sleeker, better all around, but it's still a slab that opens up with a keyboard. A little, comparatively, pocket computer that plugs into and takes advantage of your existing tech infrastructure, that blows my mind. And I don't know that I will ever get sick of that. And I don't know that I'll ever get sick of talking about that because it impresses me. Fourth thing I've liked is the performance. All of that modularity would be for nothing if the phone chugged or struggled to work when you move from simple tasks to more complex multi-window tasks. I've yet to have a single hiccup or even a single slowdown in either regular phone mode or in big DeX mode. And that means with several things happening at once, YouTube videos open, Word open, multiple tabs of my internet browser open. Unless, and yes, there's always an unless you need specific programs that will only run on x86 architecture, or if you need programs that don't run on mobile operating system. But on the other hand, there are also always ways to either stream from a computer to your phone or create virtual machines to make things work on the phone outside of the mobile ecosystem, but that's way outside the purview of a video on a channel called The Everyday Dad. Suffice to say, the power is great today, and you will get 7 years of operating system updates, so it will be great today, and it'll continue to be great in years to come. The fifth thing I've liked is kind of a cop-out, but it's the overall phone. Everything we've talked about today and in previous videos about this just comes together so well in a single device. Like, I'm a tech nerd. I wouldn't have a big YouTube channel like this if I wasn't a tech nerd. I'm so happy, and I've enjoyed this so much. I mean, you can see it from how many times I've wanted to talk about this. The last time I enjoyed a piece of consumer tech this much, I think it was the Apple M1 MacBook Air. From holding the Ultra to the stylus to finding excuses just to carry it around with me when I'm sitting at my desk, I've liked the whole experience. I don't know that I've ever come across a phone that's captivated me so much since like the Motorola Droid way back in the day that it like flipped up and had a keyboard. Remember that? I even made a whole video where I talked about my struggles with swapping from my iPhone and my family's Apple ecosystem to Samsung's just because of how much I like this phone. It's been with me for a whole month and it looks the same as the day I bought it. I did put a screen protector on it, but the back looks great, the sides look great. I've taken it out for a ton of runs. It's super customized. Just overall a fantastic phone. Would I recommend the S24 Ultra after all this time? If you are a younger person that does not have their finances in order, no, I would not recommend the S24 Ultra. But I wouldn't recommend any extravagant purchases of this much either way. If you are somebody that isn't concerned about the price, or if you live in an office that has been designated a no price zone, then yes, I would absolutely recommend this phone. It bears repeating that I haven't seen a phone since before I started YouTube, what, 7, 8 years ago, that's blown my socks off like this thing. It's literally the perfect iteration of a glass slab phone, and dang, I could spend 15 more minutes just gushing about little things, but I won't because nobody wants to hear that. Maybe we'll do a live stream or something where I just get all of my gushing out at once and you can hear that unedited. But what about you? Have you purchased an S24 Ultra? How are you enjoying or not enjoying it? Let us all know that balanced set of opinions in the comments below. And click here to see my struggles of swapping from the iPhone 15 Pro Max to the S24 Ultra for a week. Well, 2 weeks in reality. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.